Morning. Can we confirm the YouTube broadcast has started? Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Councillor Mike Quigley, Chairman of the Planning and Rights of Way Committee, and I'd like to welcome you all to the meeting this morning, which is both taking place here in the Council Chamber and being broadcast live on YouTube. Agenda item 1 is to note the appointment of myself as Chairman and Councillor Jim Creamer as Vice Chairman of this committee following the full Council meeting on the 16th of May 2024. Agenda item 2, members are also asked to note membership of the Planning and Rights of Way Committee for the 2024-25 municipal year as listed in the agenda. And agenda item 3, the minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of April were included in item 3 of the agenda. Can we agree that those minutes are a true record of that meeting, please? Show of hands. Anyone against? No, that's unanimous then. Thank you. Apologies for absence. I don't believe there are any. No apologies for absence. Declarations of interest by members and officers. Do any members or officers present have any interest to declare? Nope. Declarations of lobbying. There's none known. Has anybody here had any cause to register a lobbying interest? No. In that case, we'll move on to agenda item 7, which is item concerning the application to consider an extension to the East Leake sewage treatment works onto the land directly to the west of the established site. I move the recommendations as set out in the report, and can I have a seconder, please?
Only second, Chair, and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Creamer. I now invite Jonathan Smith, Team Manager, Development Management, to present the report and any further information relevant to the application.
Thank you, Chair. Planning permission is being sought by Severn Trent Water for an extension to the East Leake sewage treatment works off West Leake Road to increase its wastewater treatment capacity to meet the needs of an increasing number of new households in the catchment area. The location of the works is shown on this slide, and this, together with a programme of refurbished works to the existing sewage treatment works, slide 3, which can be seen on this photo set back from West Leake Road, would ensure that there is enough capacity to meet both the current and future needs of the population, which is expected to grow by 16% by 2033. The site will be a sustainable option, sharing existing infrastructure with an existing established sewage treatment works. The proposed site layout plan for the extended works is shown on this slide, with the following 3 slides showing the main elements of the development proposed on the extension site, consisting of the oxidation ditches and the inlet works. There is a clear justification of need for the extension to bring the site back into compliance with its dry weather flow permit and to provide sufficient infrastructure for the new housing that has gone up in East Leake Village, and to address sewage overspill in residential gardens in properties within East Leake, Wymeswold and Weissel. Particular issues have arisen have involved removal of established woodland towards the western boundary of the extension site, with tree clearance felling prior to the application coming in, which has opened up views of the site from the surrounding area, including from properties within West Leake Conservation Village, and attendant visual amenity impacts from a site that had previously been extremely well screened. Other issues to resolve have involved an initially inadequate soft landscaping scheme and an incomplete submission of biodiversity net gain information. Both of these issues have now been resolved to the satisfaction of West Leake Parish Council and Rushcliffe Borough Council, as well as officers. However, West Leake Parish Council maintains its objection to the planning application on grounds of traffic impacts associated with the construction traffic. A further issue that has arisen has been the commencement of the development which is subject to this application prior to the application being determined, with this slide showing some of the works progressing. Severn Trent Water has explained that the works had to start on the Monday, the 24th of June, without first benefiting from permission, because they could not start any later and still meet the regulatory date Severn Trent Water need to have the infrastructure operational by to meet the Environment Agency's requirements. In response to this, officers have forwarded the draft conditions as set out in Appendix 1 of the report and retain the right to take enforcement action if it becomes necessary. An early start on the permitted development elements of the scheme meant that traffic impacts had been an intermittent problem for some weeks, and now the actual works have started on site. Further concerns regarding HGV lorry movements through Westleigh Village have been raised by local residents and the parish council. However, Severn Trent Water has worked with Westleigh Parish Council and the County Council to try and resolve these issues by putting in place an agreed traffic management plan, including 20-mile-an-hour signage and traffic marshals. A planning condition would ensure this plan is implemented for the duration of the construction works. This slide shows the level of lorry movements associated with construction traffic, including during the school holidays. It can be seen that the vehicle movements peak at 90 movements a day on the 3 days of the 17th and 24th of July and the 7th of August. These movements are associated with the concrete pours for the base of the oxidation dishes, which will see 350 cubic metres of concrete poured over these 3 days. Post-construction, levels of traffic will be much lower and vehicles would use the existing site entrance and the temporary access will be closed off and reinstated with hedgerow. The Highways Authority has not objected to the application on the basis of the HGV movements being short-term during the construction phase. In principle, policy support is provided under Policy 22 of the Rushcliffe Local Plan Part 2, given the site's countryside location and in the absence of any other special listing. It is considered that the principle of the proposed development in this location is acceptable and is compliant with this policy, a position reflected by the consultation response from Rushcliffe based on the amended landscaping scheme and the designers of the scheme as a whole. The proposals have been amended to mitigate the visual impact of the proposed oxidation dishes by sinking the structures into the ground so as to lower their above ground height. In addition, the soft landscaping scheme has been amended to include more robust tree planting on the boundaries of the site, with standard trees 2 to 3 metres in height due to be planted at the earliest opportunity. This would help to screen views into the site both in terms of the immediate locality and more distant views from Westleigh Village. It is considered that the design of the scheme has been suitably mitigated so as not to adversely affect the character of the countryside, in particular its openness. Another key policy in support of the development is Policy WCS 8 of the Waste Call Strategy, which supports extensions to existing waste management facilities that increase or improve existing waste management methods through their extension, redevelopment and improvement, where this would increase capacity or improve existing waste management methods and or reduce existing environmental impacts. Careful consideration has been given to the potential impacts and the County Council is satisfied that extending the site is the most sustainable option and would not lead to any unacceptable environmental impacts as per Policy WCS 13 of the Waste Call Strategy, subject to suitable mitigation to compensate for the removal of the established woodland prior to the application submission. In this respect, the compensatory biodiversity net gain would be secured by way of a planning condition. The application has demonstrated that the proposed development would conserve and or enhance biodiversity with an acceptable biodiversity enhancement strategy. The development has also demonstrated biodiversity net gain in compliance with meeting the test under Policy 38 of the Rushcliffe Local Plan Part 2 and Policy 17 of the Rushcliffe Local Plan Part 1. Finally, in policy terms, there is support for the development under the East Leake Neighbourhood Plan in that it delivers the objective of Policy H1 by providing adequate local infrastructure for increasing levels of new housing. The upgraded infrastructure would meet the current and future population growth within the catchment area and be beneficial in terms of achieving sustainable development through the proposed extension and upgrading of an existing facility rather than through the development of a new facility. It is considered that the pressing need for the improvements to the sewage treatment works outweigh the temporary impacts during the construction period, which officers are continuing to work closely with the applicant and the local community to minimise as far as possible. On that basis, planning permission, a recommendation to grant planning permission is provided in the report. However, I just want to point out we do need to start the recommendation on the basis that we have received a draft unilateral undertaking from Severn Trent Water to provide for the mitigation works to the public highway. The unilateral. We officers have seen the draft unilateral undertaking, are happy with it, but at the moment it is just with Severn Trent Water to sign. So on that basis, as you can see on the slide before you, it's recommended that the recommendation is slightly amended, thereby allowing the corporate director to grant planning permission subject to the conditions in Appendix 1 once we've received that signed unilateral undertaking. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor representing Leake and Ruddington, Councillor Matt Barney, has asked to address the committee in relation to this application. I remind Councillor Barney that county councillors may speak for up to a maximum of 10 minutes and will be advised when 1 minute of the available time remains. When the time limit has reached, the speaker must stop immediately, and the speaker should not or raised by officers as further relevant information in their presentation of the report. Councillor Barney.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm extremely grateful to have the opportunity to address the Planning Committee this morning. This application has caused significant angst and distress for the community of Westleake in recent months. But I thought it was important that I come as the ward councillor to set the context as I see it, having been significantly involved with this project for several months, working really closely with our planning officers. Very grateful for Jonathan, who has been intimately involved in this as well, and also Debbie Ragg, and also with Severn Trent, who sit here behind me. So first, getting back to basics on this, really, I think members will be aware that East Leake has had unprecedented housing growth. Indeed, in Rushcliffe, we've had more houses in East Leake than any other part of Rushcliffe. And on top of that, we had a new secondary school built 20 years ago. We've had a new primary school built. We've got the DNRC at Stanford Hall. And we've got more development along Costock Road and Costock and Weissel. And as a result of this, the sewage works, which I think was initially built in the 60s in Westleake, is way under capacity. It has been for a long time, and therefore the need to upgrade and improve it is well past and overdue. This works needs to be undertaken, and it really ideally should have been done a long time ago. As well as that, this works needs to be undertaken because following this, there will be there's further works to be undertaken for a pump rising main, which will massively improve the sewage situation for Weissel and Costock and Eastleake, and will also prevent the sewage overflows, which currently happen in storms into Kingston Brook. So I paint a picture of enormous need here, and I want you to balance that as you come to the decision in whether you pass this morning. I also speak on behalf of residents in Eastleake and in Costock and Weissel who regularly, and this is several times a year, have sewage in their gardens and in some cases even entering into their properties, into their porches and into their garages. It's quite unpleasant. We need this sewage works, and we need this to be passed, in my view. That said, we did get off to a very bad start with Severn Trent. There was a complete lack of communication. When the project was undertaken, a lot of hedges and trees were ripped out, and the village were rightly distressed about that. Westleake is one of the most beautiful villages in southern Nottinghamshire. However, Severn Trent have in recent months engaged extensively with myself and with the community and with the parish council and with the planning officers, and have sought to mitigate. And I think Jonathan has correctly indicated that the parish council are now content with the screening measures, and also the fact that this whole site has been lowered from what was initially 5 metres of height to I think just 1.5 to 2 metres in height in terms of the visual impact on this major engineering project. So significant mitigations. There have been a number of other mitigations as well, which I'm grateful to Severn Trent for having provided. But that said, the traffic impact is horrendous. We've already had much of the traffic movements already undertaken. That time has passed, that there's still more to do, of course, over the summer. But I would suggest that the right time to get on with this is now. We're going to have the school holiday season, which is going to reduce the traffic on the roads, and therefore seizing the opportunity to get this passed now would be opportune in terms of the fact that the school holidays are going to provide that, afford that opportunity for there to be less traffic on the highways. From my perspective, what needs to happen is that the marshalling which Severn Trent have put in place needs to be adhered to. The planning conditions around the traffic movements need to be adhered to. I would have preferred over the summer holidays to see some of the vehicular movements exiting through Eastleake. Obviously during school time that would have been inappropriate, but over the summer holidays it would be fantastic to see a one-way system introduced. I don't think the planning conditions will allow that, because you have to probably accord to the traffic management plan that's been put in place. The traffic management plan hasn't been adhered to in all cases, and I would lean strongly on Severn Trent to ensure that it is rigorously enforced, both with the marshals and also the enforcement of speed limits, not only through East Leake, but at West Leake, but also along Melton Lane as the traffic passes out back towards the A543 through Kingston upon Soar. There are regular reports of lorries, and actually this has been proven by speed cameras, of the lorries speeding way above 30 and 40 miles an hour, which causes enormous upset, particularly as you've got very narrow roads with multiple lorries passing on these narrow roads at the same time. So all of that said, this has to be passed in my view. It's absolutely critical for the residents in East Leake who are suffering so with sewage. It will also afford the protections that we need going forward for future development and stop sewage pour into Kingston Brook. But please, 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 can the conditions please be rigorously enforced by this authority for the best interests of the villagers of West Leake. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Barney. The agent and the applicant have asked to address the committee, and I understand that John Nichol is going to speak for the 3 minutes on behalf of the committee, and that Sophie Tunnicliffe is prepared to answer questions as part of the debate. John, if you'd like to start, you have 3 minutes from when you start speaking.
Apologies, Councillor. Sophie from Severn Trent will be presenting the case, and then I'll be here to answer questions. So sorry for that miscommunication there. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's right, Sophie. Then, if you want to start your 3 minutes, and then we'll throw it open to members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sophie Tunnicliffe, Severn Trent, Lead Project Manager for East Leake Sewage Treatment Works. Due to growth in the catchment, the works has reached its treatment capacity, and there has been an increase in the instances of sewer flooding and pollution in the area as a result. A new environmental permit has been agreed with our regulator, the Environment Agency, and this requires us to implement measures to treat more wastewater to a better standard and to provide stormwater treatment at the works by the 31st of March 2025. The proposed upgrade of the works will also enable future investment in the catchment to resolve the issues with flooding and pollution, which are key priorities for Severn Trent. To meet our regulatory compliance date, we have taken the decision to commence construction of a key civil structure in advance of obtaining planning permission. This work is currently taking place in tandem with other works on site which benefit from permitted development rights. We have worked with stakeholders to resolve various matters during consultation, including issues relating to landscaping, screening and biodiversity net gain. We are, however, aware of the outstanding issue relating to traffic management, which we would like to focus on at committee. Other points raised by the case officer have been addressed, and the required supporting information has been submitted. The traffic management plan has been thoroughly examined, and our HGV routing proposals have been developed through consultation with Nottinghamshire County Council, West Leake Parish Meeting and the local member, and we believe our proposed plan is, on balance, the least impactful option. The plan incorporates a one-way system for construction traffic into and out of West Leake. In addition, on days where significant works are planned, further controls will be implemented to reduce the instances of HGV vehicles passing each other in the area. There will be an initial peak of vehicle movements during August and July, but the volume of traffic will reduce significantly for the remainder of the project. We appreciate that there were issues with our initial implementation, and we will make changes to ensure that these are resolved going forward. We are also creating a notification system using Facebook and WhatsApp to inform the West Leake residents when key events will occur. In addition, concerns have been raised regarding damage to the highway and verges due to vehicles overrunning the edge when passing each other. In response to this, we have agreed to submit a unilateral undertaking to the Council to repair damage to roads and verges in West Leake caused by our construction activities. We appreciate the importance of working with local residents and key stakeholders. In hindsight, we should have involved them sooner. We will continue to communicate with them to support successful delivery of the project going forward. I urge the Planning Committee to grant planning permission today, allowing us to proceed with the upgrade of East Leake Sewage Treatment Works to deliver key benefits for the community, including enhanced sewage treatment provision, reduction in pollution events and flood prevention.
Thank you, Sophie. Do officers need to clarify anything in that from that presentation, or are we content to go to the debate? In that case, I understand, Councillor, whether you have a question.
I don't speak rather than question.
All right. In that case, then you're the first one to speak.
There you go. Thank you, Chairman. It's always very difficult following the councillor there. Councillor Barney, But Councillor Barney is absolutely right in what he said. Now, the property growth there has been, quite honestly, bonkers in my opinion. Now, I say that for knowledge because I'm also Rushden Borough Councillor, as Councillor Barney is. So I hear, understand, and see what's happened over there in his division, or ward, whichever you want to call it. But having said all of that, we have to appreciate and recognise, be sympathetic to local people who are having to put up with a lot of traffic inconvenience. Of course they are. We all know what it's like when heavy lorries trundle through our very busy roads, and it's not nice at all. But as Councillor Barney has just said, just imagine if you were one of those residents with all that sewage leaking into your homes, and as Councillor Barney has also said, into your porches. How horrible that must be. Yes, of course it'll be great inconvenience, and I don't anywhere wish to dilute how folk feel about this. But, as again Severn Trent have said, this is absolutely something which is absolutely vital, given the property growth that's going to carry on. It's not going to come to a standstill. So this needs to be approved today. Now, again, I would urge, as Councillor Barney has already said, the committee to approve this. I would also put a plea out to Severn Trent. Severn Trent, it's not the first time your communication has been pretty appalling. I know from my own division it's not good. So I would ask you, please, to listen to what Councillor Barney has said and the commitment you've given this morning to carry on engaging and make certain you adhere to all these conditions. Very, very important you do, because Councillor Barney has to send a message out to his local people that you are doing all the things that it says on the tin that you will be doing. So please, please, do listen and do act accordingly. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Councillor Owen.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm never quite sure whether it's simply arrogance or incompetence when an applicant comes for retrospective application planning permission, or whether it's just simply a combination of both. And I don't think at the moment we're able to charge an enhanced rate for retrospective planning applications, but I wish that was enforced ASAP. I have every sympathy with Councillor Barney because he will pick up and be responsible for everything that goes wrong with this development. I've had to endure weeks and weeks of issues in the not all part of my division because of Severn Trent and the traffic chaos that they've caused. And every hold-up has been my fault, and every failed traffic light has been my fault. So you have my sympathy. But we're clearly not going to be able to say no to this application because, as Councillor Barney and Councillor Wheeler have said, residents are suffering indescribable events when we get storm force water being deposited in the area through heavy rainfall. But I would make a plea to the planners to ensure that every condition and everything that we want is absolutely and completely and utterly nailed down in a Section 106 agreement. I don't know whether the unilateral undertaking that was mentioned has the same effect as a legally enforceable Section 106 agreement, because we want to make sure that everything is absolutely put right afterwards where damage has been caused, and often it isn't, and that's been a failing on the part of the County Council, in my view, over a number of years, not to pursue that, because we should have done. I want all of that tied down, and in particular, the vehicle movements and the plan that you say has been agreed between yourselves, Severn Trent, and East Leake Parish Council. That absolutely needs tying down and legally enforceable. And we need to be proactive if they don't do as we want them to do. Yes, we'll have to give them permission, but I'm afraid it sticks in my craw that what is in a sense a public body behaves in the way that they clearly have done.
Thank you, Councillor. And could I just ask you as to clarify the legal position between 106 and unilateral undertaking.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to put members' minds at ease, as planning obligation secured through a unilateral undertaking is equally as enforceable and forceful as one secured through a Section 106 agreement. So it has equal status, effectively. Thank you.
Thanks for that clarification. Anyone else on Councillor? Were you first, Councillor Fielding, or was Councillor Henshaw? I'm not sure. I didn't see what order the hands, but we'll take Councillor Fielding first.
Thank you, Chair. As Councillor Owen has just stated, I agree with him. It rather sticks in my craw as well over some of this, and particularly when trees and other things are removed prior to planning permission being taken. I sincerely hope that it is conditioned that whatever planting is agreed, we've got a sufficient maintenance period and whatever to ensure that they actually take, and that it is absolutely going to screen what is there to the satisfaction of the community. Because, as I say, it's the community I absolutely feel for, as well as Councillor Barnett, for having gone through all of this. Severn Trent has a really good read, which is a community cohesion policy, and I sincerely wish that they would adhere to it, because the upset they've caused within many communities over how they've gone about their planning permissions, it shouldn't happen, and they should stick to their communication policy and ensure that they do communicate with the community and elected members when they're doing works within their vicinity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Fielding. Councillor Henshaw.
Thanks, Chair, for bringing me in. When you look at this application, it's causes me concerns, not only because of it being slightly retrospective, but in relation to the point that Councillor Fielding mentioned in relation to the initial hiccup in getting the thing started. And Councillor Barney mentioned that there was a lot of concern from his residents because the Severn Trent or the contractor had gone in and ripped all the trees out and caused problems. So that shows to me that there was a breakdown in communication. And when you look at the biodiversity net gain, which we've sort of gone over very quickly, I'd be interested in either our office, Jonathan or somebody, actually honing in onto the biodiversity net gain of this project in more detail to committee. Not saying that I think that we can't refuse this, because it's a definite need for that community, and we've just got to make sure our officers and other people work with Severn Trent to make sure that the restrictions, the things that we put in place are adhered to quite vociferously during the construction of the unit. But I'm definitely interested in the biodiversity net gain. If you could announce that and give me more information, Jonathan. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Henshaw. Anyone else? No. Councillor Moxon.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to reiterate what other people have said, really, that this is, it sounds like from what Councillor Barley told us, it's vitally important for the community. I did love how he eloquently described, I think it was that sewage coming into people's properties was unpleasant. I mean, it's an understatement of the year. I'd say it's downright disgusting, quite frankly, but he's far more eloquent than I am. But one thing I wanted to pick up on was when Severn Trent come to reinstate this area afterwards. This is one thing I find not necessarily with Severn Trent, but certainly with companies like that do these kind of reinstatements afterwards, is that it seems to take a long time to do. They have to be pushed and prodded to get it done. don't always do it to a good standard the first time, and they have to come back and redo it after a lot of prodding. And for us as divisional members, it's usually us that get it in the neck for that. So just further to what other members have said, I would strongly push that Severn Trent get this done right first time to how the community want it, reinstating back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moxon. Anyone else? Councillor Creamer?
Yeah, just to point out my concern that aligns mainly with Councillor Owens as well, is that this hopefully will be the last time. But the thing is, at the moment, quite rightly so, the sewerage problem's been addressed. It's been addressed in places like Gedling in my patch as well. And again, the lack of communication, even with the local council, was appalling, and because it was their permitted rights that allowed them to do that particular part of work, but without consultation. So I would hope they actually improve their actual consultation process and their forward planning. We know sewerage is pouring out everywhere, unfortunately. We know it needs dealing with, and granted they are dealing with it, but they know where it needs dealing with, and how quickly it needs dealing with. And regardless of the environment agents having to tell them they now have a date to do it in, it should have been in their forward plan someplace. So as things go forward, hopefully there'll be more upgrades on your facilities, etc., to actually improve the situation for everybody. But within those improvements, please start the consultation early, the planning process early, so that things like this don't have to upset the local residents. They'll always be upset to some extent. But if they know what's happening, why it's happening, when it's happening, and when it's finished, people will accept things. Severn Trent doesn't seem to realise that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is that everyone? Councillor Camilleri?
Yeah, just to take up, I agree with everything everybody said. But going back to the retrospective part of this, it's like start the work, they do the work, they upset everybody doing the work. We don't know about it. This is how I think it works. That's retrospective. You've started the work, you come back to us to get the planning permission. And this is a major company, Severn Trent. So if they ignore the rules, how do you expect the ordinary man in the street to stick to the rules when they ignore them? I think, trying to think this, not saying, I think it's time that we made some kind of fines for people who do work before they get the planning permission. That perhaps would stop this kind of planning, this issue that we've got now. They would have to come with the plans, because if they didn't, they get a fine for it. Because this has caused, like Councillor Barnes says, a great deal of upset for residents. And I think the retrospective planning permission really sticks in my throat, and it's something that needs sorting out, because we've seen it more and more in planning applications here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation in the debate. I certainly have great sympathy with the residents of Eastleigh, because my property and garden has been flooded at least 4 times by Severn Trent sewage, so I know where they're coming from. And as everybody has said, I don't think there's any course of action other than to approve this recommendation. But I would ask Jonathan, as it was just flashed upon the screen, that we have altered what is on the agenda, if you could read it out for members before we have the show of hands, so that we're absolutely certain what we're voting for. Thank you, Jonathan.
And can I just come back on one or two of the comments that have been made as well? On the biodiversity net gain that was raised, Councillor Henshaw, the application was submitted before biodiversity net gain mandatory requirements came in, but there is still a policy requirement in Rushcliffe's local plan that development demonstrates a net gain in biodiversity. I think the details are set out in paragraphs 138. Around there in the report, and we are now satisfied that they are demonstrating a biodiversity net gain. Others have talked about providing, ensuring that that the planting and stuff is done correctly, and there are conditions. Condition 12 in particular, I'm looking at, requires any failed planting to be replaced, etc. And so there will be an aftercare program in place for that. And just finally, I just wanted to touch on the in terms of the comms. So there's been comments about Severn Trent's communications and stuff, and yes, we clearly picked that up as well. In recent times, David, Tim, and myself have started having regular meetings with Severn Trent Water. There's going to be a hell of a lot more investment from Severn Trent. That's my understanding in the county in the years to come. We're keen to see these projects run far more smoothly than perhaps this scheme has. And I look at Councillor Fielding and the scheme that we dealt with up at Gateford as well, which perhaps could have been run more smoothly as well. So we are working with Severn Trent on those schemes to try and ensure that things do run more smoothly in the future. John, could you get that slide back up with the recommendation? I'm happy to read that out again. Got it written down somewhere. Yes, it is. I can read it now. So yes, it's recommended that subject to the completion of an acceptable unilateral undertaking or acceptable Section 106 agreement under Section 106 of the Town and Country Planning Act to secure repairs for any damage caused to curbside and grass verges along the highway by associated construction traffic, the corporate director of place be authorised to grant planning permission subject to conditions set out in Appendix 1. In the event that the unilateral undertaking or Section 106 agreement is not signed before 31st of July 2024 or within any subsequent extension of time agreed by the County Planning Authority, it is recommended that the corporate director be authorised to refuse permission on the grounds that the development fails to provide for the measures identified in the heads of terms of the unilateral undertaking or the Section 106 agreement within a reasonable period of time. You'll be aware, Chair, that usually when we have a Section 106 agreement, we usually allow for 2 or 3 months to get the Section 106 agreement in place because we're dealing with a unilateral undertaking, which we have seen in draft and are comfortable with, and also to reflect the retrospective nature of the works that are ongoing. We've given that really strict time frame of getting this done by the end of the month. So I trust that's acceptable.
Thank you, Jonathan. Just a point. I know we've got a date in there, but then it says about a reasonable extension. What would you call a reasonable extension? I would like to see it all tied up by the 31st of July.
Well, any reasonable extension is usually discussed with you and the Vice Chair and agreed with you and the Vice Chair. So, I'm really hopeful that we will get this over the line, if not today, then tomorrow or by the end of the week. So, I don't think we'll even get close to that 31st of July date.
Thank you, Jonathan. Members have now heard the altered recommendations. Are we content to approve subject to those recommendations? Show of hands. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No, then the application is approved. Right, members, now the previous speakers and Councillor have left the room. We'll move on to agenda item 8, which is the application to consider the importation and deposit of inert and non-hazardous waste to facilitate the restoration works at Two Oaks Quarry. Can I move the recommendations as set out in the report, and can I ask for a seconder?
Second Chair, reserve the right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Creamer. Thank you. I invite Joel Marshall, Planning Application Senior Practitioner, to present the report and any further information relevant to the application.
Thank you. Good morning. So Two Oaks Quarry is a silica sand quarry on the corner of the A611 Derby Road and Coxmoor Road. situated between Kirkby and Ashfield and the southern edge of Mansfield. Extraction of the sand is currently in the latter parts of phase 1 in the northeast quadrant, adjacent to Thieves Wood, which is also a local wildlife site. And future phases 2 to 4 currently remain in agricultural use, although initial soil stripping has recently started for phase 2. Members will no doubt be aware of this site and that there's been several applications before the committee over the recent years, particularly since it was first approved in 2013. Various variation applications have come before the committee to increase rates of production, the maximum HGV movements allowed, and the hours of operation. A change was also made to the quarry design in 2019 to increase the number of temporary silt lagoons in phase 1, and that resulted in a consequential change to the restoration plan. So the current planning permission does not include any ability to import waste materials to achieve that restoration, and it's currently only to be achieved using indigenous site wood materials. So full planning permission is now being sought to import and deposit waste for restoration purposes, specifically for the purpose of partly capping some of the former and existing silt disposal lagoons, so that the approved restoration landform can be achieved to a range of heathland habitats. So an audit by the quarry company has found that due to the need to create effectively these additional silt lagoons that they've had to create, owing to a higher than expected silt ratio in their mineral, that there is now insufficient restoration material available on the site, meaning that the approved restoration design is unlikely to be achieved in a timely manner without sourcing and bringing in waste. There are also variable soil depths around the site and less restoration material available on the site than originally envisaged. So some general photographs of the site. Generally what happens is the extraction proceeds to create the silt disposal lagoons, and then those lagoons, which are very sizable, are gradually filled up with the silt as a slurry. The pipe at the end of the photograph there, you can just see the silt going into the disposal lagoon. And over time that fills up, consolidates and dries out. So there's a series of those in phase 1. It is proposed that a total of 296,000 tonnes of suitable waste material is to be imported over the next 15 years to progressively cap off these lagoons as each is filled to their maximum possible level with silt. All these works would take place alongside the operation of the quarry. So just to show you where these lagoons are, they are in the top right corner there in phase 1, so some are currently in use and some are going to be developed as the quarry progresses. And we've got an aerial view as well. So it's that top corner we're looking at, and then the proposed plan shows they're the lagoons that we're looking at, and as you can see, they are quite sizable. The cross-section drawing on the planning application shows that around 2.5 metres depth of waste would be utilised on top of the silt, and then above that there would be a capping layer approximately 1 metre with sand to provide the substrate for the heathland creation to restore that area. So in terms of planning policy, the waste core strategy through policy WCS5 recognises that materials can be directed towards the reclamation of mineral workings and man-made voids, where this would result in an environmental benefit, and also in general where it is shown that the additional waste capacity is necessary. It further identifies the Mansfield and Ashfield area as a shortfall area. Officers have challenged and queried the need for the waste importation, and have accepted the applicant's technical justifications. The need for this waste is targeted and at the minimum level necessary to achieve the capping and to deliver the approved quarry restoration levels. We are satisfied that the use of the waste would be a recovery operation to deliver the approved restoration landform, and that suitable waste will also be available. The materials would deliver an environmental benefit and further would ensure that restoration works would be completed on time. Without the materials, the restoration of that area could be delayed by up to 9 years. There appears to be a clear and well-defined need for authorising additional local capacity for the receipt of that waste material. The exact categories of waste materials that would be accepted would be governed by a bespoke environmental permit, which is required to be obtained from the Environment Agency, and that's in addition to the need to obtain planning permission from ourselves. The permit application has been lodged with the EA. Generally, the materials will be inert and non-hazardous. They will be suitably uncontaminated, comprise materials such as concrete, stone, brick, ceramic, clay, and they would sit above the water table. There is this underlying principal aquifer. The Environment Agency initially requested further hydrological studies on that during the course of the planning application. That was subsequently received and their objection has been overcome and they've lifted their objection. It will be subject to a further technical review by the EA as part of the permitting process, and they won't grant that permit unless they are happy that it won't pose an unacceptable risk to the groundwaters. So on that basis, the planning application can be supported, and there's no requirement to delay progress with that permit application. We understand it could take months to determine. So waste would be imported using HGVs, and the applicant advises that due to the likely campaign nature of this, that there will be days when the quarry's current HGV limits are breached. So they are seeking to increase the permitted HGV movements. However, these will fluctuate, being a campaign operation, so there'll be some days where there'll be no movements at all, and others where there'll be clearly more than they're currently allowed for. No stockpiling would take place. Generally, the materials would be brought in as required to cap a lagoon, and also when it's weather critical. So the worst case HGV movements have been assessed by our highway colleagues, and they advise that they can be accommodated on the local road network and raise no objection. These movements should comply with the existing HGV routing agreement in place for this site, and that should be done through a legal agreement. The routing is on that slide there and also in the papers. Generally, the site is well located for road access, but we try we do restrict HGVs running up Coxmoor Road, the north part of Coxmoor Road, where there are properties up there. The applicant states that the restoration of the heathland would be achieved some 9 years sooner than would otherwise be the case. So there are benefits there to progress the restoration. We note there's no objection from Ashfield. We've had one local objection citing noise and odour concerns. However, we've looked at the noise, and the noise is going to be expected within the current permitted thresholds. Our colleagues in Via have not objected. Odour impact is not anticipated given the nature of the waste materials and the permit controls. Noise controls can be carried forward under planning conditions, and they will also protect the adjacent woodland from any unacceptable noise impact into that woodland area. Natural England have not objected, and our ecologist is also happy. Also worth noting, whilst the site is located in the green belt, these works are not considered to be inappropriate in the green belt. They would be in quite a defined and discrete area of an operational quarry not out of keeping. So overall, the proposed development is considered acceptable in accordance with the development plan, particularly the waste core strategy, and we recommend approval. So formal approval, though, is first subject to the applicant completing a legal agreement to ensure, again, that those HDVs route by the current approved routing strategy. And secondly, the legal agreement is also to control, or provide rather, for an extended aftercare period for the heathland habitats that we're looking to create on that area. Finally, I've just picked up a typo on condition 20, which I did put a slide on. On condition 20, the level there should read 149 rather than 147.5. So subject to that clarification on the typo and the prior signing of the legal agreement, planning permission is recommended for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. The agent of the applicant has asked to address the committee in relation to this application. I remind the agent that he has 3 minutes maximum to speak and will be advised when 1 minute is available. And when the time limit has been reached, the speaker must stop immediately, and speakers should not introduce any new material beyond that submitted already as part of the application or raised by officers as further relevant information in their presentation of the report. I invite Mark Aldridge to speak in relation to this application.
Thank you, Chair. Mansfield Sand Company Limited have operated the sole silica sand site in the county of Nottinghamshire since 2014. The site has 4 broad phases of working, and after some 10 years, phase 1 is nearing completion. The quarry diligently meets all of its 63 planning conditions, of which 15 relate to the restoration of the site, to include plans for soil handling storage, phased restoration schemes, and robust aftercare provisions. To meet the needs of these conditions, the site is now short of suitable and sufficient material to cap the silt lagoons at the quarry by around 295,000 tonnes, and in order to complete the restoration. This is because the washing plant has become increasingly more efficient at reducing the amount of waste created at the quarry. Per year, the estimated amount of quarry waste used for capping is approximately 12,500 tonnes, but this does fluctuate. This means without importation of materials, the site will never be able to meet the planning conditions to restore the site in a timely manner. This is something the company does not wish to happen. The specialist noise, air emission, HGV reports and ecological studies accompanying the application have shown that in the opinion of the company's consultants, the importation of waste for restoration purposes will have negligible or no social or environmental impact. The company has also worked tirelessly with the Environment Agency and hydrological consultants over the past year. This is to ensure the importation of materials is limited to waste that is inert, non-hazardous, and has zero detrimental impact to the surrounding ecology, hydrogeology, and local stakeholders. To this end, the company will implement an ironclad waste management plan to ensure this can be adhered to. The waste management plan has been attached to the planning application for review. Waste will only be imported when the lagoon systems are dry and friable enough to accommodate it, and the company will not be stockpiling any waste materials prior to campaigning. A lagoon will take around 4 years to fill with silt from the quarry process, a further year to dry out, and 1 year to cap with waste. As a result, there will be extended periods of time, often years, when there is no need to import waste. It is therefore considered the development is acceptable. There will be no environmental harm associated with importation. The applicants have specifically discussed the proposal with the Environment Agency at length and with other stakeholders to achieve a sustainable and sympathetic approach to the importation and restoration of the site. It is therefore hoped members will follow the officer's recommendation for approval linked to the existing legal agreement. This accords with good sustainable environmental practice, and the resultant ecological enhancements to the locality are substantial, providing a mosaic of acid grassland and heathland that Nottinghamshire desperately needs.
You got the micro answer. Thank you, Mr. Oldridge. Do officers need to clarify any factual statements? Are we content to move on then for debate? Any member of the committee wish to speak? Councillor Madden?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I originally went against this proposal back in 2014. Anyways, I'm pleased to say that I was proven wrong. So thank you very much for what you were doing. And I'm more than happy to support this proposal in front of us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Madden. Councillor Camilleri?
Yes, we visited the site some years ago, and we were really impressed with what it was looked like. They actually fell foul of the retrospective rule on one of their sites, which they put right pretty quickly on the old site. And I think this is an extremely good site. It will be. I play golf at Coxmoor Golf Club, so it'll enhance the environment and the view tremendously. If you get rid of the big windmill, that might help as well. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I know the area very well. I spent many years working on Coxmoor Road, so I know the area. I think it was a bit ambitious to think they were going to take loads of sand out the hole and then fill it back in without bringing material on site. So I don't think this is unexpected amongst members. But anyone else wish to make any further comments? Thank you. In that case, can we move to the recommendation? All those in favour, please show by raising their hands. Anyone against? No. Any abstentions? No. That's unanimous then. And in that case, the recommendation of the officers is approved, and the application is therefore approved.
Mr. Chairman, could I clarify the point on the windmill for the member? Okay.
Thank you. Then we move on then to item 9, which is Development Management Progress Report, which has been circulated with the agenda. Does Jonathan wish to point anything out in particular?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is the standard report brought to members. Just want to, there's a couple of items. In Appendix B, which details our performance against statutory targets for the speed and quality of our decision making, there's just a paragraph in there about a recent appeal hearing that we're involved in. Committee will recall a decision to refuse planning permission for the extension of the Briggs Metal Yard on Great North Road in Newark, a decision taken in July last year. An appeal was lodged against that refusal of permission, and the hearing took place in the middle of May. We received confirmation from the planning inspectorate on the 5th of July that the appeal had been dismissed. If you've got an electronic copy of the papers, there is a link there which will take you to the appeal case, and you can read the inspector's report at your leisure. Appendix C set out the future items due to come to committee, and in particular, Chair, officers would like to raise the possibility of whether members would like to undertake a site visit to the former ash disposal lagoons at Lound in Retford. This is a very significant planning application we're in receipt of to remove the PFA ash from these lagoons. It covers a vast area, and we are due to report it on the 17th of September. And so, if members would like to undertake a site visit, we can make arrangements for that to take place. I'll probably suggest early September when members are back from their summer recess.
Councillor Fielding.
I certainly would welcome a site visit, as I say, even though it's, as I said, Ambassador member, but I think it would be extraordinarily useful for other people to come and have a look at it, the members.
Councillor Henshaw.
Yeah, I'd support Sybil in that, providing we can fit one in with people's diaries. It's always good to go on site, like Councillor Camilleri mentioned about the visit that we paid a few years ago to the quarry. It was very informative, and we actually saw and got a finger on the pulse of what actually the quarry workings did. So I have been in support of that, but I'd just like to add another thing, if I may, Chair. It's in relation to our debates or discussions on biodiversity. I wonder if at some point on our work programme we could have the County Council's ecologist to come and talk to us about biodiversity and how best we can enhance that. Because to me, I mean, we get a report and we look at it, and I don't know whether 1% improvement on biodiversity means if you plant 100 trees and you have to put 101 in. So I'd be very interested in somebody coming to us and talking to us how we can sort of, because there are new regulations coming out, how we can best enhance biodiversity in the county. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Henshaw, but I would suggest we don't do it on September the 17th, as we're going to have a rather full agenda. But I agree that that it would be useful for quite a few members. I have had some discussions on biodiversity with various people, and there is some confusion about exactly what it does mean and what it does bring to the table. So that would be useful. Anything else on the report? Just Councillor Creamer.
Yeah, just a short one on the appendix and the appeal. Thank the officers for the work that went in. There was a lot of work went into that for the original meeting to start with, and when we refused it, and then the appeal itself. So I'd like to just congratulate the officers and thank them for the work they put in on that. It's actually protecting, in our opinion, done exactly what it was supposed to, protect the environment in a flood area.
Thank you, Councillor Creamer. You've stolen my thunder. We did have some discussion at pre-agenda, and it was felt useful that Jonathan did bring to this meeting the fact that we won that particular appeal, because it was a rather contentious application, and in fact we had the Member of Parliament for the area at the time attend the meeting, speaking on behalf of the applicant. So I think it shows that we made the right decision, because the inspector has upheld our decision. So thanks to all the officers for all their work, and in not only in handling the application but also the appeal. So thanks to the team. In that case, there being no further business, I bring the meeting to a close, and thank you for your time and participation today. Can I confirm the broadcast is now complete? Thank you.